This was in the early 90s, and insurance was still paying like a slot machine. If you had any type of impact, you could get, the medical bills and, 2 to 3 times meds, and it was a great settlement and it was easy. And then one day State Farm decided, I think this was probably around 94 or 95. One day, a minor impact was worth the meds plus a few $1,000s. The next day, it was worth $500. So all these cases that we had suddenly became impossible.
This episode of the D4A Show is brought to you by California Sports and Spine, precision care for pain, recovery, and performance.
Well, welcome everybody to the D4A Show. Today we're here with a special guest,
Howard Blumenthal.
There you go.
You got it.
We got it.
And I'm here with my co-host, Nicole.
Hi, guys.
And our special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Howard, how do I pronounce my last name? Blumenthal?
This happens a lot. No, I'm just kidding. It's nice to have you on the show. We were actually just talking, a very unique last name, and I was like, this sounds like it should be a name of a flower. Like, it's such a great, unique last name, and you're saying that there's a town in Germany.
Yes, Blumenthal. So Valley of the Flowers is the translation. So as we said, I need to go to Germany so that I could go see whether I'm the king. And if I am, I'm never coming back.
There you go. So Howard, how many years have you been with Axe Law?
So now I've been with Axe Law, I'll say in months, kind of like when you're in a relationship with your, girlfriend. Like I used to count months with my wife, who I've been with now, I can say years, 42 years. But it used to be months, 3 months, 6 months, 12. So I've been with Axe Law 15 months now.
Wow. 42 years with your wife?
We went to the prom together.
Oh, wow. That's super impressive for high school.
And I think it's like 500 months.
Wow.
I kind of lost track.
I know who to ask advice now on long-term marriage.
Oh, yeah. You could just...
We've been together for
10
years together. You're right.
10 years.
We're married.
6. You just threw a number out there.
You might have started something that could be a problem.
What not to do. That was what not to do.
Okay, so since high school dating and going to prom with your wife, in high school, were you like, hey, I'm going to be a personal injury attorney? Or was this like further on in life? What made you decide to become a personal injury attorney?
My failure at calculus, chemistry, and physics. So from a very young age, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I thought I could be a pediatrician. I thought I was smart enough to be a doctor. So went to UCLA, biology degree. And I think on day one or maybe not day one, maybe week 2 when I took my first calculus test and didn't do so well, I probably should have realized. So lawyer was not in the picture. Although my mom tells me, and I have verified this, that my report cards always said talks too much. So probably I should have been thinking about being a lawyer. But eventually medical school fell out, finished my biology degree. And then the only reason I'm sitting here today as a lawyer is because I tried medical sales, which is what every failed doctor does. If you don't go to medical school, you become a medical salesman. And as much as I like to talk and enjoy communicating, cold call sales is awful. So yes. I hated that. And then one day, and this will show you how old I am, I was looking in the newspaper in the want ads, which don't exist anymore. Yeah. And I saw a job description that looked really interesting to me, which was investigating and resolving bodily injury claims with a company, once again, to show how old I am, 20th century. It's now 21st century insurance. So I decided to apply for it. I got the job. My parents were ready to jump out of a building because not only was I not a doctor, I was now a claims adjuster. And in their mind, I had wasted my education. But I thought, well, I know some anatomy, so maybe I can use it. And that's how the path started towards eventually going to law school.
So you were with 20th Century. So what did you do specifically for that company when you first started?
Sure. I was a claims adjuster. So I was hired And we went through a training class, and they taught us, how to investigate claims, how to understand medical injuries, how to look at medical records, how to document a file. Back then, once again, notes were handwritten. So one of the things that actually I have benefited from in my career is I am a fanatic about notes. And everybody that works with me is constantly being reminded, if you had a conversation with somebody, if you did something on the file, if the notes don't exist, what you did doesn't exist. So that sort of formed the foundation, but basically got my beak wet in this industry of auto accidents, because I was focused on the auto accidents of 20th century, and I loved it. I mean, as much as I hated the sales aspect of medical sales, because I wasn't even doing pharmaceuticals, it was oxygen tanks. So maybe that was probably why it was so bad. But as much as I hated that, I loved, from the first moment I became an adjuster, I loved it, was doing great. Matter of fact, I only lasted about 15 months. Hopefully that's not
it's not a trending
when I move on from things like Axel. I don't think so. But from the moment I started doing it, they did an audit in the office, and I was the #1 rated file handler, despite being the newest file handler in the Burbank office. So I took to it right away. I enjoyed it. I worked hard. I worked long hours. And so clearly I made the right decision. And I remind my parents of that on a regular basis.
Yeah. So having this history of working for that company, that must help you now when it comes to working in personal injury.
Inside information.
Well, when I first moved from an adjuster, so what happened was I worked there for 15 months. I was the #1 rated when an audit came through. They were going to promote some people to claims examiner, which is basically a litigation adjuster. And so I thought I was going to get promoted, and then they promoted a blonde female.
No.
So I have nothing against blonde females.
Let me just hide myself really quick.
But I thought that kind of irritated me a little. And at that same time, an attorney named Cedric Sarnoff, known as Ricardo Sarnoff, I had settled a few cases with him, and he called me one day and was saying, I'm looking for somebody to work for me to settle cases for me with insurance companies, and I like the way you handle things. Would you like to talk to me? So that sort of got me to go talk to him, and I decided to go work for him. So that took me away from insurance and got me on the other side, which I still believe that if you can do anything, you should be able to do it on either side. So that started the process, and all of a sudden I became a settlement negotiator for a law firm. And I regretted it almost instantaneously.
Oh, no.
The first case I was given was a child who cut her lip on a Gerber's baby bottle. Somehow she put her mouth to the baby bottle and it was chipped.
Oh, this is when they were glass.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
so,
glass bottles.
And I was like, okay. They wanted me to try and settle it. They said, there's a problem. I go, what's the problem? Well, they don't like the medical treatment the child had. Really? What's the medical treatment? We sent this toddler to a chiropractor.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, they cut their lip on a bottle. So I was instantly going, is this what personal injury is on this side? That I've got to try and make impossible arguments? So I think over a couple of months, I finally got them to like $1,000 or $1,500. But I mean, it was almost impossible. But it turned out that was a outlier. And so we were handling, all auto cases, and it was wonderful. And this was in the early 90s, and insurance was still paying like a slot machine. If you had any type of impact, you could get, the medical bills and 2 to 3 times meds, and it was a great settlement, and it was easy. And then one day State Farm decided, I think this was probably around 94 or 95, one day a minor impact was worth the meds plus a few $1,000s. The next day it was worth $500. So all these cases that we had suddenly became impossible. So that was a big, like a fork in the road for personal injury. And once again, I was like, well, this isn't so great. But that wasn't as bad as when Prop 213 came into effect, where you no longer could get general damages for somebody without insurance. So those were two challenges as I was going to law school at night while working for that firm.
Oh, wow.
Jeez. Those are big challenges, man.
Those are huge challenges. Yeah. It's like getting our first big office and then COVID hits.
That was horrible. That was really bad. So Howard, what are some negotiation tactics you've learned over the years, not only working as a adjuster, a claims adjuster, but also, as a litigator?
So one of the things that I've learned is that you don't know how to negotiate unless you negotiate a lot. So I've settled personally about 5,000 cases. Wow. So once you've done something a lot, if you want to be a great golfer, you golf a lot. If you want to be a baseball player, you hit a lot. One of the things that is most important, my mentor, Rob Paris, when I was at the Paris law firm out in the Antelope Valley, taught me that you have to be patient. Patience is usually the most important. Now, as somebody who's been with his wife for 42 years, I don't know this from personal knowledge, but I've heard from others, my single friends, that if you're at a bar and you're trying to pick up on a woman, you can't be too desperate and chasing them too much. The same applies to settlements and negotiations. If you call every day and say, do you have more money for me? Do you have more money? You look desperate. So one of the things that I teach in webinars when I cover this subject is you want to have an apple tree that's full of apples, cases. And some are ripe, some aren't, and you got to wait for them to ripen. So when you have enough of a caseload, you can call on some of them. And when the offers aren't there to settle or the adjuster isn't willing to settle, you have to wait until it's time. I'll give you an example of what we're doing right now. We were talking about pregnancy and cankles, right?
We weren't talking about that.
Okay. But we have a case right now. One of the partners at the firm, his mother was in an automobile accident, and the adjuster is not very nice, and she's squeezing us pretty hard. Well, it turns out she's going on maternity leave. So we've decided, as part of our negotiation technique, is we will allow her to go on maternity leave. There'll be a new adjuster during that 4 months, and then we will revisit negotiations. So it's always looking for an advantage. You know, how do we solve the problem before us? One of the things I do love about being a lawyer is you're presented with a problem. It's different. I got to tell you, in 35 years of practicing law and being an adjuster and what have you, I've never used this technique, but it came to me because it just, the facts presented themselves. Like, wait, she's going out. We want more money. So what's great about negotiation and the practice of law is it is only limited by your creativity.
Smart. You have any more secrets? We want to hear these.
Any more secrets? So
I know we get a lot of people that watch beginner attorneys, law students. Like, is there any advice or recommendations that you would give? Let's just say a person that's going to law school right now. What would you give them as a recommendation?
Right. So as an insurance adjuster over 15 months, I negotiated, probably, I don't know, a few hundred cases. Once I went to work for the law office, I was doing 200,000 or 300,000, probably 20 or 30 settlements a month. So that over a 6 or 7 year period was probably a couple of thousand. Wow. And then once I became a lawyer and then I went to work for Cohen and Steinbrecher, I was negotiating settlements. I was doing it myself. So I guess the advice I would give to a lawyer coming out of law school or any young lawyer is it's not in your best interest to just immediately be a litigator. Litigation is one part of the practice of law in personal injury, but a lot of people do not learn how to handle the case from the beginning. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I've always had an interest in pre-litigation and litigation. So, I've litigated hundreds and hundreds of cases. I've tried 10 cases to a verdict, but I've always said I'm not a trial attorney. I'm an attorney that tries cases occasionally. But what I am is somebody that understands how to build a case from the beginning through pre-litigation, how to litigate that case and bring it to a point of resolution. So for young lawyers, it's important to understand how to build the foundation of a case.
Correct.
And then personally be involved in the negotiations. Many firms, and this goes to I spoke at Cal Vegas this year on how to prevent your staff from practicing law without a license. And one of the main issues is, most firms have settlement negotiators that are doing the negotiations on their own who are not lawyers. Now, that can happen. It just has to be under supervision. At our firm, at Axlaw, every settlement negotiation that occurs is either conducted by me or supervised by me, giving parameters and things to do.
Yeah.
But the point is be involved. So if you want to learn to negotiate, you got to do it. Don't leave it to others, because the more you're involved with the case from the beginning, the more you'll know the case and the better the result will happen. And so when we can talk about this a little bit more as we get into what I'm doing at Axlaw now, but literally being involved in a case from the beginning to the end will always benefit you. Being involved just in litigation or just in pre-litigation will not benefit you, because there's more to the story than just half of it.
Correct. It's those notes and chiropractic treatment for a cut lip. Those are things you have to catch.
And
we were discussing
beyond that,
Oh, that's right.
don't send minors to chiropractors.
Exactly.
I mean, I personally, and that's a medical management thing. Here's what I try and say in general about everything in personal injury. And so this is more advice for young lawyers. I have a slide I use in my webinars, and it's two intersecting street signs. It's the intersection of common and sense.
Mm-hmm.
Use common sense for everything. So when you have an 8-year-old, common sense says have them go to their pediatrician, get them checked out. Do not send them for physical therapy or pain management. They're too young. Everything that you approach, if you're trying to figure out the value of a case, use your common sense. What information does the insurance company need? As you're deciding what cases to take, use your common sense. If it's a 20-year-old person with very little visible damage, that's probably not a case worth taking. If it's a 68-year-old with prior back problems, maybe you should take it. So if you take a common sense approach, maybe you don't need all that experience and you just start with a common sense approach versus a plaintiff-oriented approach, which I think is wrong. You can't just believe in every single case. There has to be facts that back up those beliefs.
Got it.
Very interesting.
So I know we were kind of just...
I'm just listening to him. This must be what you do for a living. Besides, being an attorney is teaching. You're very good at it.
I want to hear about that. Your consulting and teaching that you're doing.
Sure. So let me talk about this, because when I was a young lawyer, I didn't have the confidence that most young lawyers have. Most young lawyers come out of law school and, the theory is fake it until you make it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like that. I came from a science background. The law was very difficult for me because 2 + 2 was supposed to equal 4. In the law, that's not the way it works.
Correct.
So throughout my early career, I had success, but it was very rough. Because there was never a definitive answer to anything. Now, I appreciate that. Matter of fact, I love that about the practice of law, because now, 30 years later, I understand that it's not about whether the facts or the law are on your side. It's about who makes the best argument. So back then, I would have never imagined anybody would have given a hoot about what I had to say. I used to go to Cal Vegas all the time, and I'd see people speaking and going, wow, this is pretty cool. I can never imagine being up there. Well, as I developed in my career, I found out that I was sort of unique, because most attorneys, as we mentioned earlier, they just do litigation. That's all they know.
Yeah.
Well, I had developed at an office as a settlement negotiator and as an adjuster to learn how to handle cases in pre-litigation, to understand, medical management and lien negotiation and negotiations and liability arguments, and I was writing my own demand letters. So I was forming a foundation to my career that is different than most attorneys. So as I went along, it was problematic because I was more comfortable with pre-litigation than litigation. My first job at 16,000 Ventura Boulevard, they hired me. I started working there. They fired a 7th-year associate and gave me his caseload. And I had no real litigation experience, so it was hard. But the pre-litigation experience I was able to use. I would start to figure out how to serve discovery and take depositions. As a matter of fact, my first deposition was a total disaster. I was objecting to my own questions. They were so bad. But I was able to negotiate settlements. I knew what cases were worth, and I started to build some confidence. The problem was I really liked pre-litigation and knew it more than I knew litigation. And so I had a lot of doubt in myself going through my first 10 years, doubt. My second 10 years when I was working at the Paris firm, it's a trial firm, and Rex Paris really only respects people that try cases. And I didn't want to try cases there. I made them a lot of money. I didn't get the best cases because I wasn't his son, his daughter, his son-in-law. But what I did was I took those cases and we made money, and I settled a lot with my case manager, but still was not confident. And it took until I left there and went to work for Cellino and Barnes, now known as the Barnes firm, where I actually hit my stride, because at that firm, it was the first time in my career where I was going to be, number one, answering phones and screening my own calls. So at that firm, the attorneys have days where they answer the phone, and whatever case you want, you take. Now, I was on a percentage deal. So if I took bad cases, I didn't make money. If I took good cases, I made money. And then with my case manager and my paralegal, we were managing the pre-lit cases, and then we were litigating them. And then if it went to trial, so I was handling it from beginning to end. And it was like, I'm finally doing what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I finally was able to embrace who I was, which was somebody that really likes pre-litigation, but also likes to litigate, because litigation is a satisfying part of this business, but pre-litigation is something I really love. And it was almost embarrassing to like it. So at that point, I found out who I was, and all of a sudden I became much more comfortable with myself. And then I thought to myself, I've got something to share. So the CALA listserv, which is where all the attorneys from CALA go on to ask questions. Well, I started going on there and determined that there was a lot of things that I could add and answer questions, and became pretty well known on there as somebody that people would go to. And then all of a sudden people were texting me and emailing me and calling me and asking for information. So my wife was going, why are you spending all this time for free giving these people information? I said, because when I was a younger attorney, I didn't think anybody would care what I had to say. Now they do. And that's when, around COVID, two things happened. One, I started this consulting business called the PreLit Guru. I had to come up with something.
I love that name.
Yeah. Well, I had to come up with something. So on the listserv, they would always say to somebody, hey, I need to speak to the guru on this, the guru on that.
Yeah.
And so I was at the point where guru meant something, and then I wanted PreLit to be a part of it, because I wanted them to know that you could ask me things, not trial, so PreLit Guru became a consulting business for me. And the second thing that happened was TBI Med Legal. They were doing a lot of webinars, and I saw a webinar with an attorney who I will not name, but he went on one of their webinars and basically said, I'll tell you all my secrets if you refer me cases. And this was on a webinar, a free webinar. And I was like, is this guy kidding me? Like, he's going to only talk about, speak if cases get referred. So I immediately called the person that runs TBI Med Legal and said, look, I can do this way better than this guy. I want to do that. And that's what started me speaking. So from COVID on, I've been doing lots of speaking engagements. And now it's to the point where I love it and enjoy it. And one of the things that I do is it's not about just telling war stories. What I learned from Rex Paris, the 10 years I was there, he is one of the best speakers out there. His son is too, and some of the other attorneys there, because the focus is on teaching, on making it make sense, on using information. So when I give a presentation, it's about how can I make each attorney better, not how can I get cases from them. I hope that may happen, but so the intent was always pure. Mm-hmm. And I get told by people on a regular basis, I love when you speak because I can use what you say to make money now. The people that are, the big trial lawyers, and they're just telling me, look at my big case, send me your big cases. That doesn't help them. We know who they are. So, at the end of the day, I now know that I have something that's worth saying that people care about. And most importantly to me, I'm giving back to the industry because the industry, any profession, you should give back. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. And therefore, teaching people has become a big part of my career.
That's great.
Yeah, that is huge.
Okay, so we were just discussing, you have some great, I want to say like intellectual property type kind of advice and where can we find your consulting?
Sure.
Is there a website?
So yeah, I've got a website and I think it's the prelitguru.com. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look.
If we don't know, the link will be at the bottom of this video. We're going to get the right one and we'll link it below and you can check it out.
Yeah, we were talking about it. I created it and I get people requesting, ordering stuff from me and I just haven't had time to really monitor it. So that's why I've forgotten the name of it, but I'm also on Instagram. I actually have two names, the PreLit Guru and then the PI Guru, because the PreLit Guru, somebody told me, well, it kind of makes me think that's all you do. And since I'm not just a pre-lit guy, I'm I've been a litigator for, right now, for example, at Axe Law, I'm the managing attorney for basically a law firm within the firm. So when they brought me here, the main goal was to manage the pre-litigation department and to grow it because they wanted to build the department so they would have their own cases, that they wouldn't have to get only from referral attorneys. But what we also developed was getting me associates so that we could litigate cases that normally would have been referred out and not handled by the main firm. Because our firm is literally a firm that handles 7-figure cases on referral from many other law firms, but they wanted to fill in what they weren't doing. So right now I have 2 associates and a third if she passes the bar in next month. That she took a few months ago. So literally what's happening, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, a lot of people are either pre-lit or litigation or trial. Yep. One or the other. The way we work it, I think, is unique and it actually benefits clients and the firm. So I'm involved in making sure we sign the right cases by overseeing our intake department. I'm involved in making sure the cases are handled correctly by overseeing the pre-litigation department, the case managers, and the assistants. I'm involved in when demand letters are written, I polish those up and make sure they're finalized. I'm involved in the negotiations. So as the cases are negotiating, I either have my negotiator handle it or I do it directly or I give her instructions. And then if it's time for litigation, I'm the one that makes that decision, assigns it to one of my associates. And we have a high success rate of settling during that transition period. Most law firms, pre-lit has the file, gets assigned to a litigation attorney who's never seen this file. There's no bridge. I act as the bridge because I know that case from its infancy. Mm-hmm. And so what we have had happen is on many files where insurance companies like State Farm, Progressive, that are testing PI firms and saying, we're not going to offer you enough money because we know that a lot of firms will just take it. We're getting double and triple the offer before any deposition is taken, before any written discovery is served. And it's just in the transition because I already know the file. And then it goes to my associates. We start working the case and I'm overseeing them at depositions. I'm involved, mediations, the whole process, overseeing it. So I'm overseeing from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So I know the file, they are learning the file. And when there's an opportunity to resolve it, it happens. So the opportunity to run a law firm within the firm is amazing to me because they have replicated in a better fashion what I loved at the Barnes firm, which was being involved from start to finish. But now I have staff that has allowed me to spread, basically, to grow what I was doing individually with a smaller staff.
Yeah. No,
So-
it's smart. Then you're not missing any files too, because you're taking it from the beginning and then working it. And sometimes files go missing or they weren't put in the file or something
we
along
know
the
a few law
lines.
firms that have done that one.
Yeah, well,
I forgot about
nobody's
this document.
perfect.
Perfect, right?
But volume has always been something I've been involved in. So at the
That's
Barnes
great.
firm, most attorneys there had 150 files. I was handling 275. The interesting part about that is that the firm's philosophy was kind of like what we talked about off camera, having a wide net and taking, if you get a call, just take the case.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that. But what I did do on weekends and after hours, when calls would come in, I would answer the phone, and any good case I got, I would take. And somehow, some way, despite the fact that other people were supposedly taking all the cases, good or bad, I was only taking the good ones, but I was answering the phones more so than some of my millennial coworkers that were a little bit not as work motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had 275 files. And once again, it goes back to that apple tree concept. The more I have up there, if this case can't be settled now, I put it aside and work on something else. So volume is something I'm used to. And we talked about your whiteboard on behind this wall. So I had a giant whiteboard that was probably 5 feet by 8 or 9 feet.
Wow.
And I tracked every case from signing it up to the end of the case and when it was settled, and it was always in front of me. And so volume has always been comfortable for me. It's not comfortable for most attorneys.
Right.
So that's why during a lot of my presentations, part of what I discuss is how you can be more comfortable with volume, because volume will get you that experience and will allow you to understand how to negotiate, how to handle cases. At the end of the day, when people ask me a question, it is rare that I haven't handled a similar type question. So it's kind of like preparing for the bar exam. The multi-states are impossible multiple choice questions. If you review enough multi-states, you'll see enough of them. And that's what my career is about. I've seen enough cases where pretty much there's no case out there I haven't seen something similar.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Howard, for coming. I feel like we can go for, the rest of the day. I have so many questions.
Very
You're
knowledgeable.
Interesting, very knowledgeable person. I would love to have you back on the show again, in the future. You can tell us how acts worked and how everything, went along.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to put underneath the PI Guru and also the PreLit Guru underneath so everybody can find it. It must be something great because you're very knowledgeable, especially your experience as you've shared with us. Thank you again for being on our show. And guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow our channel. Thank
Thanks,
you so
guys.
much, Howard.
Thank you for having me.